Why do you have an extra PS4?
Because I'm a collect. Why do you have 17 SNESes, Nisha, and fucking 100 CRTs?
Oh, touche, motherfucker, touche.
Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 7 and press any button to continue. My name is Keith, the boy who always thought bigger was better until he found out he had a micro penis. And I'm joined by my co-host Nisha, who related the term more expansive, more badass and more brutality only related to his masturbatory habits. That's right, today we are talking about those classic games who wanted to renew their success like a desperate couple renewing their vows. Who would have thought that slapping a big juicy 2 on the cover wouldn't always be a fantastic idea? They say you can't beat a dead horse, but you should cheat the pure abuse that is laden into the lifeless body of some of these franchises. Some may have redeemed themselves, but let's be honest, once you take a shit in a kettle and boil it, it's pretty hard to forget. That's right, today we are looking at video game sequels that have missed the point of their origins and prematurely squirted their dirt into releasing a sequel on today's episode of Press Any Button to Continue.
You fucking... I was not expecting that kind of an intro. That was like
pure filth.
Just totally, pure and utter filth.
Oh my god, I was rocking it, man. I was enjoying it when I was writing that one. I was like taking a fucking shit in a kettle and boiling it. You know, you never go back after that.
Jesus Christ. That kind of caught me off guard. I just wasn't ready for that level of depravity of like 10 seconds. Normally we ease people into
micro penis, brutality on your own masturbatory habits, desperate couples renewing their vows. You can't beat a dead horse, but you should see the abuse that's laden into the lifeless body of some of these franchises. And, you know, once you take a shit in a kettle and boil it, it's pretty hard to forget. These are all accurate, you know.
I think that was the darkest. That was the darkest intro, or possibly anything that has ever been said on the podcast so far.
Which part? Out of curiosity, because I'm always curious.
All of it combined.
Just micro penis,
just heavy shit, man.
You know, fucking lashing it on in, boiling a shit in a kettle. It's all just good prank stuff, man. It's just a prank, bro. It's just pranks.
So we're talking sequels.
Have you ever taken a shit in a kettle?
No.
You never fucking turned it on just to see what happened, no?
Jesus Christ. I'm a bit dizzy after that intro. So we have talked before about sequels and movie franchises, and say like Star Wars, and there's the next trilogy, and there's the Han Solo movies, and there's Rogue One, and there's the constant adding to the same thing.
The fatigue, like and the Marvel, like as in like there's a spin-off show, and if you're not watching every spin-off show and everything, you're gonna miss the Easter egg at the last 4 seconds of a movie that you're just waiting for 4 seconds for.
Yeah, my thought process always was, until you kind of enlightened me, was why not? The more the merrier. If you don't like it, don't watch it. But then you were making interesting points about how.
So what I was saying was essentially was that, you know, there was two sides to the argument. One, that we were talking about remakes, essentially, is what we were kind of looking at the time, and how much time and resources are used into, you know, recreating the same thing over and over again that could be used to new creative ideas as well. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Which is a little bit of that in it. So I think it's and then, you know, if you're making a sequel and a sequel and a sequel, when there could be like, you know, these new IPs, or, you know, you are just beating a dead horse, right? Like it's kind of, you're just trying to squeeze the cash cow as hard and as long as you can, that you know is a definite, because the biggest risk with money is doing something new and creative. So we're in a bit of a rut of having the same shit over and over again, regurgitated like a fucking shit in a kettle boiling, you know?
That's a good point. It's a risk for your money to try something new, because it mightn't fail. Where if they take a Legend of Zelda game and polish it up real nice, they're like, that shit's gonna sell fucking hotcakes no matter what happens.
Excuse me, polish it up. Fucking like take the Wii game, fucking port it to the Switch, do fucking nothing and charge 3 times the price. Everyone's gonna buy it. Everyone's gonna fucking buy it. Nintendo are the kings of polishing fucking 15-year-old shits and charging 4 times what they charged for it ages ago.
But like, it's going to work. They're going to make money off it. They're like, we don't give a fuck. We know people are gonna buy it. But even with the likes of, say, Link's Awakening, where they like totally remade the game. Say, so you know the Game Boy game.
Yeah.
I think it was 1989 or something. Link's Awakening came out, and then they remade it on the Switch. And to be fair, it's a really cool game. I really like what they did. They did something totally new with it, but they had the blueprints there. They knew the game was well loved.
Mhm.
They knew it was something that was it was a guaranteed win almost.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Similar, like, although I don't know if it was such a safe bet, is, and I haven't actually played it yet, so I'd be curious to hear what you think, is the Final Fantasy VII remake. Because
so I've only played the remake, so my experience of that is very unique to the fact that I really enjoyed the remake. But I am very aware of the original, and I know the remake is just a third of the first game essentially. But I think like there's certain remakes that obviously I think should exist, and you know what I mean. They're kind of parallel to sequels, I suppose. Do you know what I mean? Like remakes and ports kind of live in a parallel universe. To not a parallel, but in parallel with sequels in their own way, right? Because like the new Red Dead Redemption port for the Switch and the PS4 just came out, and people were freaking out over those prices, and they're kind of guaranteed cash cows in a similar way. But obviously, sequels are more risky, right? So when we talk about like Luigi's Mansion 2 or 3, like if there's enough of a love for the first game, obviously they know that they can, you know, hypothetically at least release one game that's terrible. Like a perfect example is Devil May Cry 2. So like the first game was a renowned success, and the second game was pretty bad, and then they had to redeem themselves with the third one. You know,
which is the Devil May Cry that you said don't even bother?
Two. Well,
yeah.
I found fun in it, but like I think
right.
you know, in the day and time it came out, it lost what made the first one good, and I think that's what's interesting about the conversation. It's like also making anything art related, right? If we do a podcast episode on, like, let's say this podcast episode has 9 times the views of a normal podcast episode, then we're going to be like, shit, we kind of have to look at that and try and recreate that, even though you can't really recreate the magic of it, you know what I mean? You're going to want to kind of capitalize on it. So I think like when it comes to games, a lot of times they can either try and squeeze the same thing out again and lose its magic, or they lose the core identity of what made it good in the first place. You know, it could be like, now we have a bigger world and there's more of this and more of that, but like none of the charm is there or something, do you know?
Yeah, totally. And tell me this, right? What do you have specific sequels in your head that you loved? Specific sequels in your head that you thought were terrible? What, if I can ask you for your first kind of game, apart from, you mentioned Devil May Cry, but do you have a specific game where you were like, the sequel was actually better than the original? Oh,
so going from like from Sequelitis to a sequel pro. I think there's many. I think quite often a lot of the sequels, like I think Tears of the Kingdom is better than Breath of the Wild. I think
I have notes down of a controversial opinion.
Well, I know you don't like Tears of the Kingdom, but one thing I can't understand though is how you like Breath of the Wild but not Tears of the Kingdom. Because I could totally understand you saying I don't like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but they're so similar. Similar, and maybe that's why.
Do you know, I think that is why. I love Breath of the Wild. I think it's a fantastic game. I don't know, with Tears of the Kingdom, like I don't understand why I don't like it either.
Then it's probably a life thing. You know what I mean? It's probably like time and place, because that's like a huge reason of why sometimes you don't click with something. Do you know? Because there's many things I didn't click with, and it took me 4 times to get into. Like The Witcher was notorious for me. I had to play The Witcher 3 times, and on the 4th time, I clicked with me.
Oh yeah,
because I was just in I need, like, you can be in a very zoomy mood where at the end of the day it's like, I just need something that gets me quickly. You know, I need something that like hits the buzz of what I'm looking for. And The Witcher was one of those games that, like, geez, you have to sit down for 5 hours just to fucking like get through the prologue. And then though, but once I was in the right time and place where I wasn't anxious about things going on in my life or work problems or family problems, I was able to absorb it, and then I loved it. You know? Because I think there's sorry, go on.
I think you're totally right, man. I honestly do. I think you're totally right, because I don't understand why I don't like it, and that makes sense as to, it might be just a time and place for me in life that I'm not ready for the game yet. It's a huge game. I'm very aware of the fact that it's a huge game and a big undertaking. And maybe it's just that when I have a bit more of a lull in life, that I can be like, I'm going to take on this shit and I'm going to get into it. Because I did play it and I did enjoy the first couple of hours, but it just didn't grab me as all. It just
Yeah. No,
didn't
I totally get it.
like.
I've had so many of
Yeah.
that experiences with games. There's so many things as well that I'm aware that I think are objectively good, but I subjectively don't enjoy them. Like
Right.
examples could be like, I think Ed Sheeran is a very talented musician and I think he's very good at what he
Mhm.
does, but like it's just not quite my cup of tea. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, you know,
Of
I
course.
can
Yeah.
say that I think he's really, really good, but it's just not my thing. And
Yeah.
the same thing can happen
Yeah.
with games too. But I think with
Mhm.
sequels, it's interesting because what you're happening here is it could be like, I love his first album, but I hate his second
Yeah.
album. Do you know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah.
So you love the maybe the franchise. So in other words, you could be like, I love Ocarina of Time, but I hate Majora's Mask, or
Mm.
you know, whatever comes after it. So that's the
Oh,
interesting thing. So you've already been hooked by something, right? You've been
yeah.
fucking reeled in by a franchise, characters, world building. You're immersed. You're in love with it. And then you
Yeah.
can't wait for the second one, and it either doesn't grab you, or you objectively or subjectively think it's bad. You think it's lost its charm, or it's magic, or they just wanted to make another one for the sake of it, or they rushed it. You know what I mean? There's so many
Mm.
games now as well that the sequels have just been rushed, and then they'll fix them later. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That
Cyberpunk.
seems to be.
It's not a
Yeah,
sequel,
that
but
seems to be a common thing with modern games. Now, I don't have a PS5 or an Xbox Series One X. Is that what it's called?
Series X.
XS. Yeah, Series X. I don't have I have a PS4. Switch is the most modern console I have, and I feel like games on the Switch are generally safe enough when they're new with regards to patches and stuff like that. But a lot of modern games seem to have been totally rushed out, and you need a day one patch or something like
Mhm.
that, which I think is a bit wild. But when we're talking about games that like you're so immersed in, you totally enjoyed the world, the story, everything about the game, and I'm actually playing one very, very apt for this episode. I think that's the right word. Oh, very apt. Just hit my mic stand for this episode. Is I'm currently playing through Final Fantasy X on the PS4, but I'm playing the HD remaster, remake, whatever it's called, from the PlayStation 2. And Final Fantasy X is one of my favourite video games of all time. When I started playing through it again there a few months ago, it actually kind of blew my mind as to how nostalgic it was for me. I kind of forgotten how much I actually really loved that game and how incredible it was. And I'll never forget when I was a kid playing it, and I loved it so much. And I actually couldn't ever beat the final boss. I couldn't beat Sin. And I remember I stopped playing it for months and months and months, and then Final Fantasy X-2 came out, and I was like, oh my god, this is it. This is going to be amazing. This is going to be so good. And I played through it, and it was just not what I was expecting.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a total shift.
And that's
Like-
that's always an issue with a sequelitis type thing as well. By the way, sequelitis
Yeah.
is a term by Aaron Hansen from the Game Grumps. He did his own series, but we just a word that is easy to coin. You know what we're
Yeah.
talking about here. The really
Yeah.
interesting thing about that, though, is when you first play a game, you have no expectations. When you play a sequel, you have expectations, and that makes such a big difference in how you receive a second game, right? Because there's so many games like The Last of Us Part 2 is a perfect example of an argumentative sequel that people kind of go crazy for, because it it takes a lot of risks with its narrative, huge amount of risk that
Does.
people don't expect, and because they didn't expect it, they feel betrayed. But if it was the first game that story took place, people have no preconceived expectations or love for what they want, so they can't get dashed, they can't get disappointed. You can't get disappointed about something like, well, you can, but you know, if you back in the day when we were kids, you went into a video game store and you picked a game off the shelf because you thought the cover looked cool, at worst you're like, this game is nothing like the cover I imagined in my head.
Yeah.
And that's like
Yeah.
it, you know.
Yeah, true. Jesus Christ, man. I didn't think about it like that, but that's a very good point. Like you totally have this image in your head and what to expect, and it's like, do you know what? Actually, a kind of a similar thing for me is like getting too heavily invested in a film before it's released. So getting so hyped up,
Watching too many
that
trailers, watching too many
Yeah.
interviews or whatever.
yeah, and having it up on a fucking pedestal before you've even seen it, and then it's very difficult for movies, games, anything, any artistic thing to live up when you've already like built it up so much, and then you go and see it and you're like, ugh.
But this
Like,
is
it was
the thing that
alright, but-
never existed before. We've never had this much overexposure to something that's going to come out. Like, we are aware of a game that comes out 5 years before it comes out. Cyberpunk had trailers years and years before the game came out.
Did it? Yeah.
Oh, years, like 7 years before it came out or something. Setting
No
these
way.
expectations, pre-rendered cutscenes of what they wanted to do. Like we never had, like as a kid, you never had internet videos of what the videos. You didn't have YouTube. At most, you had a TV advertisement, and you could read text in a video game magazine. You couldn't play it. Like there was no preconceived expectations, and there was no internet telling you should hate something either. It wasn't like Twitter being like, you're playing on Xbox or PlayStation, so the game is trash. And, everyone's like, trying to influence everyone's feelings on something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's none of that either, right? And I think when it specifically comes to sequels, that gets heightened because there has already been an expectation laid down. And now the company needs to tell everyone, this will be out in 2020. And then their investors are like, we need it out by 2019. And then the best analogy I can give is when someone writes their first music album, they can take their whole life to write it. They take all their life experiences. They could spend 20 years writing 10 songs and they can release it. And then all of a sudden they have to do the second one. Exact same magic again, try and repeat it in no more life experience. Trying to write songs. They might have no new relationships or heartbreak or love or loss or anything to draw from. And they just have to bring something out again, right? So, you know what I mean? Like Lewis Capaldi has, I don't know if you know him, but he had a Netflix documentary and he had this really good thing of Sequelitis, which was like he became like he developed Tourette's and anxiety from the pressures of trying to repeat the success. Do you know?
Serious?
Yeah.
I heard about that documentary. It was very, it was quite heavy. A lot of people, I heard a lot of people has a lot of respect for that man from that documentary and learning about what he's gone through and stuff like that. And he's had all these difficulties, and people think just because you're a fucking celebrity that everything's all roses. And then it's like, I think it's nice when celebrities of his stature would open up to the difficulties of even just creating and life, you know what I mean? Just relax, everyone. It's not all it's fucking cracked up to be. But I heard it's a great documentary and I will watch it. One sequel I think it's a very old school sequel that totally, back in the day, it was a total fucking curveball for people, and it is Super Mario Bros. On the NES. Super Mario Bros. 2 on the NES. Now, this has become a very well-known story in the retro video game community. If you're into retro video games, it was everyone has covered it. It's a really interesting thing. So Super Mario Bros. Came out on the NES in 1985 or something, and there was a sequel released in Japan called Super Mario Bros. 2, and it was basically the exact same as Super Mario Bros. 1 with a few differences, but it was way harder. It was fucking really, really hard. And so the legend goes, I think the head of Nintendo at the time played it, the Japanese one, and was like, no, fuck that, this is way too difficult for Western audiences. There's no way anyone's going to be able to play this. They're not going to like it. It looks the exact same. And then what they did was they took a video game that was already made called Doki Doki Panic, and they basically just altered it to look like
they just reskinned it.
They put Mario, Peach, Luigi and Toad in, and a few mushrooms, stars, coins, bits and bobs, but it was a totally different game. And then they released that as Super Mario Bros. 2 USA, almost is what it's called. And it was a total shift, and everyone was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it didn't have
so weird.
The DNA of the original, because it was literally another game,
It literally was another game, and it was such a fucking wild thing back in the day. I remember playing it back in the day and just thinking, well, this is just what it is. It is what I never thought about. I wasn't thinking that deeply because I was only a child at the time. But then when I actually learned about the story, I was like, that is so wild that there was a full sequel made, and they were just like, do you know what? Let's just take an entire new game and just turn it into this one.
Sure.
And then when it basically people learned about it then, because again, like you were saying with regards to sequels and stuff like that, back in the 90s, you didn't have internet and social media, and you couldn't find everything at the click of a button. You'd have to read a magazine or hear a story that someone said or watch a TV show. But they released Super Mario Bros. All Stars on the SNES, and then they released what's called the Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, which was actually Super Mario Bros. 2, the first one, and that's when people first got to play it. And I think it's wild that they made Super Mario Bros. 1. It was a hit. Mario took over the world. They made Super Mario Bros. 2, this sequel that the creators would have been like, I'm so proud of this. This is really cool. It's a much better challenge. And someone in the office was just like,
you.
Nah, fuck it. No, we're taking this. We're taking that other game. We're turning it into this one. And then it's not for years later that it gets appreciated.
But this is so crazy because that's also goes into how success dictates it, right? When a team is surrounding someone and all of a sudden they make the sequel that is their sequel, and then the investors or the company's like, we can't sell this. So we're going to just do something else with the product. And then all of a sudden your creative vision is completely torn apart from what you wanted. And nothing worse than if it's received poorly too, and knowing the whole time that what you were doing, you were supposed to be doing. It's so interesting how that gets taken over. And I think another sequel that's kind of interesting that isn't a sequel, but that fact that the original, and it's same to your story, Resident Evil 4 creation became Devil May Cry 1, and they scrapped the original Resident Evil 4 and it got turned into Devil May Cry, and then they remade a new Resident Evil 4 which became the over-the-shoulder one. And that's why when you play Devil May Cry, there's stationary cameras, the whole thing. It's like,
what?
Yeah.
Hold on a second now. I have never heard this
Have
before.
I not said this?
What? I remember you mentioned something about Code Veronica being
a Dreamcast versus PlayStation game. Yeah. That Code Veronica is really Resident Evil 3, and
Number
Nemesis
3.
is actually the spin-off.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true to this day.
Oh, really? But sorry, can you? Because I genuinely don't know this about. I had no clue about this. Resident Evil 4. What's the situation there?
When Resident Evil Code Veronica and Nemesis was done, they were looking to the next game, which technically would be Resident Evil 4. So there's interesting similarities, which is really cool with this. So the director of Resident Evil, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but so he was creating the original DNA for what he wanted to be Resident Evil 4, and it was going to follow the same typical pattern of the previous games with the camera angles that are situated, where you run in and it shifts the camera angle automatically for you in the original Resident Evil games. And but it turned out to be like a more action focused game, more gun shooting, less horror.
Yeah.
And it ended up so much in that direction that they were like, fuck, this can't be a Resident Evil game anymore. So what they did was they took that game and they made it Devil May Cry. That's why Dante looks like Leon.
Fucking hell, man. What the fuck? That is so cool. Holy fucking shit. I had no clue about that, man.
Yeah, man.
How the fuck did I not know this? That is so fucking wild, man.
I even think he's the
Fucking
same
hell.
Japanese voice actor, I think, as Leon.
Are you serious?
As Dante
Yeah.
is, I'm pretty sure. He does a lot of them, in fairness.
Man, fucking hell, that is really,
So
really
if you
cool.
play the original Devil May Cry, right?
Yeah.
You will see
Yeah.
it's very Resident Evil. Like
Yeah.
it's a bit more horror-ish. It's
Right.
But obviously you have all the action with it. But there's a lot of Resident Evil DNA all over that. Then Resident Evil 4 went into another stage. They tried to make Resident Evil 4 3 or 4 times in total.
Okay. Really? Yeah.
Then it got to the demo that there was an E3 demo where they had like what looked like Resident Evil 4, but it was still fixed cameras. And then finally they got to the over-the-shoulder evolution, which is obviously, I mean, if anything, that's the definition of amazing drafts. Like, you have 3 drafts of a game. One of them became its own series, and the final one became one of the best video games of all time. The opposite of Sequelitis. 2 of the biggest earning franchises from Capcom from trying to make one game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like the reverse effect of it. That's really, really cool.
Fuck. That story, man, is after blowing my mind a bit. Fuck, I fucking love hearing shit like that, man. That is so interesting. Fucking hell.
It gets your nostalgia PP all creamy.
It totally has. Like, man, I can't believe I've never heard of it before. Considering Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorite video games of all time, I've played it so much. I know I've played what Devil May Cry did I play? 3 or 4? Yeah, so I played that and it was good. I haven't finished it, but it's a button bashing game. Is that correct? Is it a button basher?
It's not called a
Would you
button.
call it?
Hack and slash.
Hack and slash. I got to a fight with is it Virgil, and I was just like, fuck you.
I need more power, Dante. Your twin cock must be in my mouth.
But I
One hell of a
like
party,
it.
Virgil. Come at me.
I did like it. It was a fun game. It just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a hack and slasher. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But if we talk about, here's an interesting one for you, right? And it's, I think, I know we're talking sequelitis about how some sequels aren't great, but I think we can talk about the good as well.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, potentially the greatest sequel of all time
Is let me
Actually-
guess.
Go on. Go on.
It's got to be one of your favorite games, I suppose.
You might know.
What console is it on? Tell me what console it's on.
It's on the press any button to continue's own Sega Mega.
Oh fuck. Okay. Sonic 2.
Yeah, man. Like, simply, Sonic 2 is a fucking masterpiece
Yeah, it
of a
is.
game.
It's a masterpiece
And
of a sequel. So is Pokemon Gold
Yeah.
and Silver when I think of masterpieces of sequels, even though I know you have a love for the originals.
Yeah, but I do. Crystal,
Yeah,
like,
which
they're all
is-
kind of the same.
Yeah,
they're all
Gold
kind
and
of the
Silver
same, aren't
Crystal
they?
is the same game, yeah.
Yeah. Like, Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow are all the same game, technically.
Mhm.
And Gold, Silver, and Crystal are all the same
Yeah.
game. Yeah,
There's
totally.
always 3 in
I-
each generation, and the third one's just kind of like a bit of a deluxe edition
Hybrid.
of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do they still do that? Sorry, not to get
Yes,
sidetracked off Sonic, but
they do. Like Scarlet and Violet was released recently. I think they did it in the handheld versions. I don't know if they're doing it on the console versions on the Switch anymore.
Right.
I don't think so.
all right. Well, I think Sonic 2 is unquestionably one of, if not the best sequels of all
Mhm.
time. One of the most well-received sequels of all time. Like, when Sega were totally fucking kicking Nintendo's arse when in the 90s in the console wars,
Mhm.
and it was all because of Sonic. And then when they brought that game out and it had Tails in it, and the level designs, the
Yeah.
fucking, the being able to pull down and charge up your spin dash, whatever it's called, and the music, the fucking music, man.
I love it.
Then
You
when they
see,
brought out Sonic and Knuckles, and you could put the Sonic
Uh-huh.
2 game into the Sonic and
and it
Knuckles
was like
adapter
a
and have,
fucking. It was like an orgy of cartridges, just like fucking like a
man,
toaster. You see,
man.
I love the console wars in that regard, right? I love the companies trying to fucking take digs at each other and stuff, and I
Yeah.
love the olden days of like, Nintendo, Oasis, Blur. I just fucking
Yeah.
hate the new shit of like people trying to
Yeah.
destroy people's lives for playing on a PlayStation or Xbox. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you, like, man? Why
Yeah.
are you so sad and unhappy?
I really don't understand.
It's the worst.
Like,
It's actually one of my, I think my number one pet peeves. I did a tweet about this the other day, and I never tweet about this shit. And I was just like,
Oh, really?
how unhappy do you have to be to take time out of your day when you could be with your loving family, when you could be bettering yourself, going out for a walk, doing anything, and spending hours berating people for playing on a console? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's fucking
That's
wild,
just
man.
A different console to you.
Yeah,
you know what
it's
I
like
mean?
it's like you have a superiority complex because you play on your right version of what you should be playing on. It's like, get fucked, you fucking
Do
tiny
you know
prick.
what it's like? It's like, say for instance, me and you are recording our podcast, right? And we're using a Samsung mic, right? I'm using a Samsung Q2U mic, which is a relatively inexpensive mic. It's like someone coming to me and saying, "You are fucking shit because that's the wrong mic. You need to be using a fucking Elgato." I don't know. What the
They're
fucking mics are called.
personally offended
It's
by
like-
your
it's a
choice of
fucking-
being fucking poor. It's like, I couldn't afford the better mic.
Fuck off, will you? Like, who cares what
It's
I'm
also
playing?
the
Like, you know
equivalent
what I
of
mean?
like going into someone's like driveway and being like, a fucking golf, and like fucking dragging
You're
you out of the house
yeah.
and running you over in a Mercedes or something.
Like, why though? Like, I'm serious now. Why do people? Why is the console wars a thing? I totally get it.
I love
in
the console
90s.
wars, but like, as in, sorry, like, because I
Companies.
wrote this. My line was console wars are pathetic, and what I didn't mean was that I think companies, trying to better each other isn't. That's great for the end user. What I mean is, like, if you
course.
take part in berating people for using something, you're pathetic. Do you know what I mean?
But are people just acting up, or are they actually?
No, I think
that,
I think they literally have a fucking worldview where I spend €500 on this machine, and I think this is the premium product, and I am like upset. Like, Starfield being on Xbox has caused people are review bombing the game because it's not on PlayStation, even though PlayStation have
really?
like there's just this like And even in the game journalism, it's fairly dead in my eyes. Like, there's very few things I think you can trust for reviews or anything these days, at least with the big people. Like, small YouTubers, I'd actually trust them fine. But, like, it's just turned into such a political war of nothing.
Oh, really?
Like, it's like, it's the equivalent of, like, a soccer team 5 times 10. It's like, do you know what I mean? It's like, well, I don't know. It's just fucking wild.
Is it who's getting paid the most to say the most with regards to writing things?
Yeah,
like, you know, when you see, like, didn't Mario get fucking slated by critics, and then the movie, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the new one, gets slated by critics, and then the user score or the viewer score of people is like, this is a fucking masterpiece of a movie. It's everything. It appeals to adults, kids. It's beautiful. The story is done. The characters are really done. The acting's really well.
It is what it is. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a kids movie. Like, it's great.
Yeah. Just because it's not the fucking Green Mile, like, calm the fuck down.
It's just the toxic fandom, and like, this is the problem as well with companies trying to make stuff. It's just so toxic. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I keep going back to the Last of Us reception, but like, there's like Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, is like, it's just for people to scream into the void at other people. Like, it's just a fucking vacuum or whatever. So
I think I've curated my Twitter where it's
all
just,
good.
My
Twitter makes me angry, so I need to just like look away from it. You know what I mean?
No, mine doesn't. I don't look at any news. I don't watch the news. I don't look at news. It's basically like people I want to follow, people's opinions I'm like hearing, friends, and then people like tweeting like obscure facts about video games that like were never released, and people who are archiving video game history and stuff. My Twitter experience is very
positive,
chilled, but it's curated that way.
Sure.
I could easily go down.
See, and the problem is once you click on one thing that you're like, what the fuck is this person talking about? Then your feed is just all that. Yeah. But it's an echo chamber. It's people, like, the problem is, and you said this to me, that Blind Boy was saying in his podcast, Twitter or X, whatever the fuck you want, it's not a real place. Yeah. So, and it really isn't. Like,
no, it's not.
People's opinions mean fucking nothing, and there's almost no truths on there. All it is an echo chamber of, if I say, for instance, like, I think the sky is red, and everyone else who thinks the sky is red sees that post, so then that's an echo chamber to them that they're right. And then that keeps going into all the algorithms and the repeats, and then the people who think it's blue fight that boosts it. It's just, it's crazy. It's fucking insane. Like, how the fuck are we even on it? Like, what the fuck is wrong?
Why are we talking about it?
I don't know. Let's just move on, man. Let's just move on before.
Do you know what he said, though? Sorry, do you know? I want to say what he said, because I think it was really funny that Blind Boy said Twitter is a video game, and it's people competing for scores to make people angry. Whoever can make someone the angriest and get enough retweets
totally
is the winner. That's kind of what he did.
100%.
It's funny how we have gone from Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Anyway,
it's a fairly natural jump. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, console wars in the 90s, console wars
to
today.
Console wars and social media to what it is today. And it's gone from something that was like a funny advertisement jab. See, console wars from companies is great. Console wars from their own people thinking that you're superior and they literally sit on a pedestal if you're playing on a certain platform is problematic. But going back to Sonic, right? From the best Sonic sequel to Sequelitis to the worst Sonic sequel, and some say the worst video game that has ever been made. It's usually in the top 10 worst video games that's ever been made.
Don't say.
It's Sonic 2006, baby.
I thought oh shit, man, for some reason I had in my head that you were gonna say I might piss you off with this one.
Tell me, you big prick.
Sonic Adventures 2.
Wow.
I was like,
the greatest game of all time. I don't think so, Nisha.
Rolling
around at the speed of sound.
For some reason I just thought that's where you were going with it. But yeah, Sonic 2006, I really have to play it, man.
It's so bad it's brilliant, so I mean it wins in that category. But you gotta understand, man, like, this game, like, how they released it is a documentary in of itself, because that game was, so apparently the rumor is that they had the game complete, right, and they lost the files for the game. So the game was they lost the whole game. So the demo you see in E3 is a way more complete working version of the game. And then they had to take all their assets and just make the game in 3 months. So what they had to do was they took what they had was a complete Sonic game, and then they lost the files for that,
What?
and then they just had to say, fuck it, we have to start. It's like losing your homework the night before that you spent a month doing an essay, and taking all your ideas and just trying to cram them the fuck back in and hope it all works.
Fuck.
That game, there is no, in terms of a AAA game, there is no game you can pick that has a worse release in terms of a broken game than that. It is literally broken.
Jesus.
Like, it's just fundamentally broken. It wasn't play tested. Like, there's no way you could have got 100 people to play that game. There's no way they could have tried it and been like, oh yeah, this is good to go.
Yeah, this is a good idea.
Like, this is good to go. It was definitely like, it's Sonic's 15th anniversary. We have to have it out by Christmas. Fuck it, we're not delaying it. Bring it out. Forever broken.
I didn't realise that the game itself was lost, the original
That
game.
is the rumour I heard. I'm not sure if that's fact,
No, I'm
but
taking it as
I would
truth, man.
say it's possible, because if you look at some of the early demos, man, that game was so much nicer looking.
I do remember playing it, just thinking. I remember at the time playing it. I was living with my granny's, and I only had a very, very few games on the Xbox 360, and I don't remember getting it or where it came from, but I just remember playing it and being like, "This is so fucking weird." Like this.
Oh, it's
I played it
thematically
being a fan of Sonic.
fucked. It's a fucking hedgehog trying to shag a fucking human. And then there's like this weird empty fucking world where there's like 3 old men having a wank in a corner. It's like, ring the bell 5 times and chase these 5 little children across the world. And it's like, what are you talking about? What is this?
Oh man!
And then there's a stunlock boss fight where he goes, it's no use, and you're just in a stunlock. You can't beat the game. This is the problem here, right, Nisha? You need to just listen to me. You need to listen up good. You need to start taking some fucking notes here. Will you just fucking get a copy of the game on PS3 or 360 and just play through the Sonic campaign? I did it on stream. No, but this is a pinky promise moment here. There's no more.
Right.
I need you, and you can stop just as long as you try to play it. It's cool with me. You don't need to finish it, right? And then I would like a full essay thesis report back on your experience.
I tell you what we'll do, right? I'll call it now, like we called in the last episode. We called it that we're going to do Sequelitis for the next episode. In the next season of the podcast, in season 4 of the podcast, we will do an episode purely based on Sonic 2006. I will have played it. I will have completed it.
It would be easier actually if you just do
stop.
a YouTube Let's Play of it, and I can just watch you play it.
Oh yeah, can we do that with our setup?
Yeah, we can.
Right.
Can we? Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I'm sure we can rig something up.
Because I just need to see, like, I'm not even going to speak when you're playing it. I'm just going to watch you, and I'm going to nod, and I'm going to smile, and know that my vindication in my heart of you crying your little eyes out, and it's just going to be so beautiful. Not that I want to see you suffer, but I need you to understand pain, you know?
I'm actually really looking forward to playing it. I feel like I'm just blissfully ignorant on the whole thing, even though I have played it and I have completed it. And in my mind,
I'm telling you, you remember that wrong. You haven't completed it, I'm telling you. And if you've completed it, there's no way. Like, there must have been really nothing going on that weekend for you. If you
wasn't. I do remember that time of life. It was very dull.
Well, yeah, I do too. But like that, there's a lot of. Oh my god, it's fucking like.
Oh no, I will. But I do have a question, right? So we're calling Sonic 2006 a sequel, but is a sequel not just number 2, or is it anything? So like, there's
a sequel?
Majora's Mask actually a sequel?
Yeah.
Is Mario Kart 64 a sequel? Is Double Dash a sequel? In my
opinion, like, as in for me, it is in my brain. Like, obviously, maybe not for someone else. But if it's not a sequel, what else is it?
Yeah, true.
Because there's prequels.
So basically, yeah, well, true. Actually, yeah. But that's story based. So technically, a prequel's a sequel.
It is. It is like Devil May Cry 3 is a prequel.
Yeah,
but it's a sequel. But it's the third game.
Yeah. That's after fucking my brain. I've only come to that realization now that all prequels are sequels, aren't they?
Yeah,
aren't they?
Yeah, they'd have to be, because that's just the first movie.
You make a prequel specifically geared toward. Sorry, it's after fucking me. So I have this down.
What were you gonna say? I want to know. You make a prequel.
No, I've only realized now that every prequel is actually a sequel, and it's kind of fucking with my mind a little bit.
Yeah. Space
But
is infinite, and we're all like useless
Fucked.
pieces of ants on a spinning rock into space, and nothing really matters. So you should just have a good time.
Yeah, true. I like that. It is the Majora's Mask, or the Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Is it a sequel to Ocarina of Time?
It's not a direct sequel, but it's a sequel in the franchise. Tears of the Kingdom is a sequel to Breath of the Wild.
It's a direct sequel.
It's a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild. It follows the same world, the same themes, the same characters. But
Yeah.
Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker are sequels in the franchises. It's like, but it's not the. It's like it's more like a season 2 or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I'd be interested to know what like the people consider it a sequel. So is Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Mega, and then Sonic the Hedgehog 2 obviously is a sequel. Is Sonic the Hedgehog 3 a sequel, or is it a threequel? Is Sonic the Hedgehog 4
Well, I mean,
a
Banjo
threequel?
2-he, Banjo 3-he, you know.
Yeah. I'm interested to know now, because I think, I don't know, for some reason I kind of have in my head that anything with 2 is a sequel, and then anything after that is not a sequel. But I don't know why I'm thinking like that.
So
I don't know why that's where my brain is
no,
going.
I get you. I think there's direct sequels and there's just sequels. I think the thing, I just want to go back to my intro for a second. So I was doing my wank micropenis jokes there, but there were key terms that I was using. So bigger and better, right? That's the thing sequels thinks they need to be. And for your one, I was like, more expansive, more badass, and more brutality is like the Gears of War kind of like sequels, right? So that's what I was doing in the intros there when I was talking about wanking. So like there's there's
so much depth.
So much depth, but there's so much depth to wanking. But no, there was there's this idea that bigger is better, and this is something that I'm not sold on in sequels, right? I do think redefining something like, Breath of the Wild, I understand its size, and I think that's fine. But I have this issue with, have you played Banjo Tooie?
Yeah, I have, and I haven't played it to completion.
I haven't either, and I've nearly finished the first one twice now, currently.
I've played through the first one, and I think the first one is one of the best video games of all time. Yeah, definitely. To be honest,
very, very good.
But for some reason, Tooie just didn't grab me. You see, maybe it's nostalgia.
I don't know. Like, I think nostalgia, first of all, is the biggest barrier to liking something anyway. Like, we can talk about that in a minute, but I don't like I love in the first game the way I collect the stuff and the world is done and I can tick it off and it gives me the serotonin of completing it. But in the second one, the hub world is so big, I can't even find my way to the level I want to go to, and it frustrates me. I want this, like, almost like in a collectathon that, like, right, I've done that world 100%, ticked it off, but this one involves a lot of backtracking, a lot of going back and forth between the worlds, which most people I think enjoy and like, but I just find it too expansive for my zoomy brain, you know what I mean? My neurospicy. I like the checklist. I like, and I think sometimes, like, I feel like Luigi's Mansion lost a lot of its ambience in the sequels, because I actually felt the first Luigi's Mansion is kind of creepy, and it kind of has, like, it's very quiet and it's very alone, and it says like this very curated linear mansion, and it's almost cinematic, where then I feel like in the sequels it's kind of a bit like, well, Luigi now has this goo power and he can fucking suck cocks when he wants and he can fucking spread his asshole, and it's like all these mechanics take away from the core identity of why I liked it in the first place, which was the spooky alone ambience, and sometimes less is more, because what you're getting is a very, like, curated experience,
Totally.
You don't and pleasing everyone. They're like, it's like, we better make it that it also has shooting mechanics, so the shooters are happy. We better make it that,
Yeah, like that. Actually, that's a point that you're after bringing up to me. Is so you're bigger, badder, better is the thing, which I think was the thing maybe in the like 90s, 2000s. I don't think
360 era was kind of like, and PS3 was quite heavy on that as well.
But, like, I wonder, did they make, so say for instance Nintendo made Luigi's Mansion, and it did really well and it was really well received, and they're like, we're going to do this, but we know people know it's good now, and we want to appeal to more people to get it, to make more money, and not to appease the fans audience necessarily. They're going to like it anyway because they already like the first one, so let's make it in a different way that it appeals to a more broader audience and can sell more games and shift more units and make more money. Do you think is that actually the way I'm saying that, it makes it sound like it's purely money based, when I know obviously it is, but
they obviously put a lot of work into, but I think there's a lot of outside influences when it comes to sequels or second albums or second movies. It's
Yeah.
like, well, now that we have the cash, that we have the budget, you better bring in Brad Pitt for no reason because he'll sell movies. You know what I mean? It's kind of like
Yeah.
there's this kind of like element about it.
Like the Expendables, man. I watched the the action movie with Sylvester Stallone, and it has all the action stars, and then Expendables 2 has more action stars, and Expendables 3 has more action stars.
Yeah.
No, but actually, I actually think that worked. I think that was a very fun movie. It literally was on the telly the other night, and I watched it, and I thought it was fun to think of who are they going to bring in next?
Yeah,
Who is going to be next in the Expendables? I think that actually, as sequels go, I think fucking movie. I know we're into movies now, but the Expendables, fun movie, fun action movie. It is what it is. Fuck critic opinions of it. It is like it doesn't take itself too seriously, but I think as sequels go, that works really, really well. But what I was saying was, I was kind of alluding to the point that maybe they're just making it for money, and I don't. Maybe that's. I think I might have actually.
I mean, that obviously is an end result, and obviously when it comes
course.
to second things, it must be as well. But I think there's higher ups who get control of the. Well, not with Nintendo, but like. At the end of the day, I think there is like trying to appease and expand, and bigger is better. But honest to God, I wish Luigi's Mansion 3 had fucking less, and it was just Luigi going down a corridor, like, you know, very close cinematic cameras. Like, you know, I just wanted that, like, not kind of like a fucking Hotel of Wonders and fucking bright lights and shit. You know what I mean? I want like the grim experience.
Yeah, I actually want to play Luigi's Mansion, the original one, because I've only played the 3. Is it that's on the Switch?
I could. That's
I've only played 3 that's on the Switch, and I've heard such incredible things, even what you've said. But I know the game is held in such high regard that I do actually want to play it. It's on the GameCube. Is it on anything else? Did it come out on?
It's on the 3DS, and they're re-releasing the second game that was on. It's on the 3DS, and they're releasing.
Right.
They remade it as a port, the GameCube one, and they're re-releasing Luigi's Mansion 2 in Luigi Mansion 3 engine on the Switch, I think. So I guess the first game should follow at some point. But yeah.
Okay.
I
just it's a game I do want to play. I have a weird one for you with regards to sequels, right? When it's I think this is a bit of an odd one, right? And this was pure. I'm convinced that this decision was made purely to sell money. Now I don't know the background of the games, the sequel, or why, but Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo, which is an incredible game. It's one of the best video games of all time. Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island,
which is Mary's favorite game.
Is it? Is it Mary's favorite game? Yeah. I thought Banjo-Tooie for some reason.
Well, it's in her top 3. Let's put it that way.
It's one of her favorite games. Yeah. Like, it's not Super Mario World. It's a totally different game. They just use that to sell.
The titling's weird, man. The titling's weird with those ones.
Like, why is it called Super Mario World?
And then I think it's like when they all re-released on the Game Boy Advance, they all had like fucking Super Mario World Advance 2, Yoshi's Woolly World, fucking Yoshi Baby Island Advance 3. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck?
They did.
What the fuck am I buying?
I was playing. I think on the Switch library, on the Advanced library, it was like Super Mario Bros. 3, 2, Advanced Extra, Super Duper.
Advanced Extra, fucking Titty Squeeze, Cream Dream, Lactate and Tata.
It's just Super Mario. But I always think that's. Like, I played through Yoshi's Island for the first time a year or two ago or whatever, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun game, but I just can't get over the fact that it's not just called Yoshi's Island, which is a perfect name for it. It's a fun name. It's what most people call it, I imagine. Yeah, but why did they call it
Yoshi's
Super
Island, Baby Mario's Asshole Advance, fucking Wawa Simulator 14, fucking
Wawa Simulator. the fucking noise.
Fucking man. Tommy Pickles, fucking Chocolate Wuckles, Angelica, fucking Cynthia. She's a really cool dancer, Cynthia. Remember that? Anyway, I have a question for you though.
Yeah.
Do you remember any game that you got that was a sequel that disappointed you as a kid outside Final Fantasy? Was there any game that you're like, it's launch day, it's the second game, fuck my life?
Do I have any sequels that I really didn't enjoy? Like,
even if you're just disappointed, it doesn't have to be you didn't enjoy it. You were just disappointed. You know, that feeling of knowing that it's not doing it for you.
Resident Evil 5, I think it was.
Oh, I have that on my list.
Yeah,
Yeah, as
yeah.
like a sequelitis. Yeah.
Because Resident Evil 4 was the first Resident Evil I ever played. It was my first Resident Evil, and I fucking adored it. Like, I still do. And I remember playing 5 and just being like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just not doing it for me.
It's not a good
It's not
game
doing
unless
it
you
for me.
play co-op.
Oh, yeah, you said that
Like
to me.
it's
Yeah,
not
I
like
didn't realise that.
that suffered, and I think they talked about it. How like in an interview, he was like, Call of Duty was so successful that they wanted to make it more Call of Duty like, and like
Yeah,
this
yeah.
ruins everything. When you take the horror elements out of something, you took the
Out of a
ambience
horror
away.
fucking game.
Yeah, when you
Mm.
take the horror out of a horror game, you're kind of left with something that's just a mediocre shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's never
Yeah.
going to be good as a shooting game. You know what
Do
I
you
mean?
know what's mad? When I got that game, I don't remember ever thinking or ever even realizing that it was a co-op game. Like, I just got it as a single player, as a Resident Evil game. I don't remember was it heavily advertised as a co-op? Maybe I just didn't, because I'm not mad into co-op games anyway. So, like, I enjoy couch co-ops, playing with friends.
That is a couch co-op.
It is a couch co-op,
Yeah,
is it?
you can play split screen.
Fuck. I just didn't. I just, for some reason, in my head, I just can't remember. I can't remember, like, thinking that it was a co-op game. I just remember you had one, you could play as one person or you could play as the other person. Like in Resident Evil 2, you can play as Leon and Claire. You have one playthrough or you have another playthrough. That's what it was in my head anyway. Now, I just wasn't really too pushed about it because I wasn't mad on the idea of it. But that's Resident Evil 5 is one that's coming to mind. Final
Resident
Fantasy
Evil 6
10.
did it again, but worse again. Like,
Yeah, that's a very good
like
point.
they went down, they peaked at Resident Evil 4, perfect blend of horror, action, and B-movie campiness. Then they decided, like, more guns, and then a 4-person story machine gun out of a helicopter, and on top of fucking Range Rovers, like, in 6.
Yeah.
So, like, they kept going down. Now, apparently 6 can be enjoyed if you don't think of it as a Resident Evil game, you just have a co-op fun. But can I say, like,
right.
co-op makes shit games good. So, like, if you're having fun with a buddy laughing at something,
True.
you're just having a whale of a time anyway, you know?
It's like watching a shit movie if you're just laughing
Yes.
at. Like me and you watching the Lindsay Lohan Christmas movie last year. Like, it was a terrible movie, but we had a great time watching it, you know what I mean?
Or Kung Pao, which is just a great, terrible movie, you know?
Yeah. That's a great, terrible movie. What about you? Do you have childhood games that were released and you were super excited, you stuck it on and you were like, fuck.
I remember playing Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire on the Game Boy Advance, so there'd be the 3rd generation after Gold and Silver, and I was kind of like, I started to realize the fatigue of actually how kind of bland the RPG elements were getting. Do you know what I mean? The turn-based 50 Zubats in a cave, like, you know, it was kind of, and obviously I was probably at an age, I was actually at an age where I still really loved Pokemon, but I was embarrassed to like it because I didn't want people to, you know, it was at that age where you weren't like fucking allowed to like shit anymore or whatever.
Yeah.
And I kind of remember like just being disappointed in the game, and then, you know, there's kind of select stuff. So there was that. What else would be there? Resident Evil 5 for sure was on my list. I think Banjo Nuts and Bolts, even though I wasn't like, I always liked Banjo and I was hoping it was like a new game, but it would just ended up being a kart racer. It was more of a spin-off.
Is it a kart racer?
Yeah, you build cars and you build cars. It's like it's very like the building in Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh really? Yeah,
very
I didn't know
like
that.
it.
See, I've never actually played Nuts and Bolts, but
Like,
is it worth it?
I think
Like,
if you
would you
went
give it a
into
go?
it not as a Banjo game, I think it's a good game.
Yeah.
But if you're, you know, if you want Banjo, it's not there, you know.
Yeah.
I think Twilight Princess kind of fucked me a little bit. Like, I remember playing it on the Wii, and I remember, like, I think it's a very good game, but I was just like, God, this is a long intro, and I'm kind of bored. And I feel like I think when it comes to the intro Twilight Princess, I think a lot of people are kind of, I feel like there's a lot of people in general that's like, you can't say a bad word about something, but the pacing at the start of Twilight Princess is god awful in terms of how long it stretches the intro. Like, you're a farmer for like 4 hours. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a very, there's a lot in the village, and I love aesthetically and thematically the wolf. I hate the gameplay of the wolf. I think it gets really, it's very, for me, I think it gets really, like, I think it's a very good game. It's just, I just think it's I don't know. Skyward Sword is another one. Then that was like fucking
Just
played
the
it on
only
the
Zelda
Wii.
game I've ever started and was just like, actually no, sorry, Tears of the Kingdom, but the Skyward Sword, I was just like, it's just not for me, man. It's just
Yeah,
not for
and
me.
the
loved
intro is
Twilight
so
Princess, though.
long again. Like Fee keeps going like,
Yeah.
"Do you need to know how to walk again?" It's like, no, I've been walking for 20 hours in this game,
Yeah,
and it's like
J-
it's the handholdy stuff that really can
yeah.
affect your
The
intro into a
beauty.
game.
That's the beauty of retro video games, man.
Yeah,
like
you're just
I'm
into
talking
it.
NES,
You're just into
Super
it.
Nintendo.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
a-
pick up and play.
yeah.
Pick up and play,
It's
man.
an instant
you fucking
hit.
yeah. Super Mario Bros. In the NES, I could give that to a fucking 4-year-old kid who's never played video games before and be like, go forward, that's jump over that, and within seconds they're playing and having fun. They'll die, they'll realise, right, that hits me, that hurts me, I'm gonna fall down here, and you're just playing. It's great for if you're busy and you want to play a quick go of video games. You just play a few levels, you have a bit of fun. I think it's one of the huge appealing aspects of retro video games, in my opinion, is pick up and play for like side scrollers, and a lot of games, platformers in retro video games.
Mhm.
But I think talking about The Legend of Zelda, I think we kind of have to mention one of the
Zelda
most
2.
notorious is Zelda 2 The Adventures of Link.
Yeah.
Is one of the most notorious sequels, because
Mm-hmm.
The Legend of Zelda was such a fucking such a well received game. It's such a fantastic game. It's so much fun. It was such a huge hit. And then they totally tried something different with Zelda 2, and people were like, holy fuck, this is shit. Like, it got slated. Now, I don't even remember it existing back in the day. It was only when
I
I
don't
got
either.
when I got into retro video games that I learned about it. And I went back and I played through it on the NES Classic, and it was difficult, but I did really enjoy it. Although I wasn't I've had Ocarina of Time since then. I've had Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker. So I had all these other Zeldas to satisfy me. I wasn't coming off the back of the Legend of Zelda NES.
Like this, you weren't in the time zone of being like, this is what we have for the next 5 years.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
again,
yeah.
so there's no expectations, and that's why sometimes going back to games, there's so many games that got slated when they came out, and when I replayed them for stream or something, like, this is fine.
Yeah.
But it's just the weight of expectations that it carried. This is the problem with reviewing as well. Like, if a game isn't a sequel, like, it marks it so differently. So, like, if the first one's a 10, and then the second one's like, well, it didn't do much different to 7. But if the sequel was the first game, it would have got a 10. But it's getting a 7 because it's the sequel to the first game, because there's expectations of what it should have evolved on, and it didn't.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah. It's you know, man, it's kind of what we were talking about at the start, where, like, say, a movie that's coming out or a video game that's coming out, if you build it up too much in your head and you're expecting too much of something, it's more than likely it's going to struggle to live up to those expectations. Again, it's why with movies, if I hear of a movie that's coming out that I want to see, I will do everything I can to know as little as possible about that movie.
No,
I just
I
know I
agree.
want to watch it. I hear, say, if there's a movie, I don't know, fucking Oppenheimer.
Mhm.
I heard people say it's amazing. It sounds like it's a cool movie, but I don't want to know anything about it.
But you just
I
want to
haven't
go in and
watched
make up your own
ads.
mind. Do you know what I mean? You just want to make up
yeah.
your own mind and your own experience of it. Like there's a few other ones in there. I mean, I think you can also say, like, you can also put this conversation to nearly consoles as well a little bit. Like, you know, sometimes
Ooh,
like, you know,
that's
like
actually a good one.
maybe a part 2,
Like the
the sequelitis to
think-
the sequelitis.
yeah. I think I think us doing a part 2 to this episode will be an interesting conversation, because we will literally do a sequel based on this episode, whether it's based on our conversation that we've had today, or just talking more about sequels. What maybe if people contribute to, say, if people are talking about this, you know, what they thought about this episode, this video games we talked about, or video games we didn't talk about, and then we can
Compare
talk
it to
about
the
that.
second one, and then you're
then
like, which
see-
episode's better? So, did we
and
manage
then
to
see
recapture it?
which
Did we improve?
Which episode is more well received? But I think it's an interesting point about consoles. I actually was only when I was doing up my list, I was only putting down video games. But when it comes to consoles, like for a long time they were just getting better and better, in my opinion anyway. So there was the Sega Master System, then there was the Sega Mega Drive, and that was a fucking serious jump.
Yeah, it was a beast.
There was the NES, and then there was the Super Nintendo, which I think is potentially the greatest. Actually, I've only really thought about this recently. Is potentially the greatest console of all time. And then there was the N64, like that jump.
Which was called the
from
Ultra
Super Nintendo,
64, I think, was its original
or the
title.
Ultra 64, yeah, to the fucking Dolphin. Is that what the game was
The
called?
Dolphin, yeah. Well, that was their code name, yeah.
Or look at the jump from PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2, man.
Yeah.
Like, that was fucking huge. Like,
And then,
a fucking DVD player.
but the crazy thing then, what started happening was when you got to the PS3, if you look at the start of the PS3 to the end of the PS3, there's actually a big jump in the generation in itself as developers get used to developing for the system and they know how to harness the power out of it, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you know, if you go from 2006 to 2012, the games in 2012 look way better. The games in 2006 looked like HD PS2 games. And by the end of the life cycle, they actually look like a next-gen game, right? And then when the PS4 came out, the leap didn't seem that big because there was so much work done during the generation to make the games look good. Like, if you look at Uncharted 1 versus The Last of Us on the PS3, both games by Naughty Dog, both games on the PS3, and Last of Us looks so much better. So much more detail, art, lighting. But then when the PS4 comes out, the jump doesn't feel that big because we don't have that, like, you know, they're learning now during the generation rather than having something like Mario 64 compared to Super Mario World. Do you know what I mean? It's
But like if you think of, I'm thinking like with modern consoles now. For me now, I did play Gears of War on your Super OLED, like really high
Gears of War
quality
3
TV.
you were playing, I think, which was an Xbox 360 game on an Xbox Series X. Yeah.
And I was playing it in what HP 4K.
You were playing it in 4K, yeah.
And like it, to be fair, that was the first time that I've played a modern game and been like,
modern
hell. Well, it's not even modern. Or a modern
it's an Xbox
console.
360 game. Yeah, I get what you mean. Sorry, an old game on a modern console. Yeah.
That really blew me away. And then I was telling you when we were talking to Emma from Once Upon a Quest, when she has been doing her Last of Us playthrough, the first time I played it on a PS4 on a normal telly, and when she was doing her playthrough, I was watching, and the detail she was taking in, I was like, fucking hell, I don't remember seeing those details. The grass, the dust popping up from the horse, the what's the god rays coming, the sun, when you that first scene with the sun blitzing through. It's like it with regards to consoles, I feel like jumping from console to console, next generation to next generation, it's not just the hardware you're playing, it's the fucking TV you're playing it on.
It's everything now. Yeah,
huge.
It's like what surround sound are you using? Because now we have 3D audio. Like what HDR are you using? Are you using Dolby Vision? Like all these things now. Like, because it is very, very true. Like if you have, I'm just saying this outright for the most part. If you have a PS5 or an Xbox Series X and you're on a 1080p TV, you're missing a good 70% of the reason you have those consoles in the first place. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure, you'll still be able to play the games that you don't need the power to play them, but you're not getting the purpose of their fidelity almost in a way. Do you know what I mean? Not to say you can't completely still enjoy it, but like, do you know, if you got a new console and you're underwhelmed, it's generally because the TV isn't matching with it. Do you know what I mean?
True, man. But that was me for a long time.
And you don't even have a 4K console. You're just using your PlayStation 4, right?
A PlayStation 4, man. And I'm playing
just
like
1080p.
Playing fucking Final Fantasy 10 HD, and I got a new telly.
I have a present for you.
Fuck. Do you?
I do.
What?
I'm
A real present?
A real present. I'm going to send it up to you tomorrow.
What? Fuck off.
PS4 Pro.
Wait, hold on.
It's sitting in my house doing nothing. That's a 4K console, so you can play your PS4 games in 4K on your 4K TV with a 4K Blu-ray player. It is yours.
Why do you have an extra PS4?
Because I'm a collector. Why do you have 17 SNESes, Nisha, and fucking 100 CRTs?
Touche, motherfucker. Touche. Sequel Shay.
my
Oh,
God.
fucking hell, man. Why did I ask you why did you have it? That was a stupid question. Give it to me.
I
Bring it up fucking
I love
next
when
month,
I love
man.
when you ask me questions because like if there anything that I get to fucking shit kick you out of, it's so much fun.
Just bring that shit up, will you, next month, man. I'm gonna have to also get some more fucking Dragon Ball off you
Why
because
don't you just I'll bring you the movies and stuff. Why don't you
man.
just order the fucking season?
because
Like a
I'm
tenner.
fucking broke.
Oh, well, that's fair. That's fair. But it's like a tenner. I'm sure you'll fucking manage that.
Yeah. I know. I'll get it. I don't know. Do you know what? I think I started watching something else and I can't. I think no. Actually, you know what it was? Sorry. Final Fantasy X has taken up everything. Final Fantasy X has been. And I
You
think
could be
I'm
playing it in 4 times the resolution on a PS4 Pro. Just
4
let you
times
know.
the K.
4
times the K.
4 times the K.
What is K?
Like I don't know, times
Kilo?
like thousands. No, I don't know.
Kilo?
It's like
1,000?
I don't know. Like it's actually not even 4 times. It's something like 16
You
times.
look
the
like you're in
resolution.
pain trying to answer that question.
I'm like, what's the K? I don't know.
Sorry,
It's just like a fucking.
Is that a curveball?
It's like a hemorrhoid in your asshole or something. I don't know. It's just. Hang on. How many times? What does let's look it up. 4K mean?
What is the K in 4K?
In digital
exactly?
cinematographic technology, it's very sharp image quality. So around 4,000 pixels. So it's literally just thousands.
Right.
So
Oh, right,
the
right.
interesting thing though is it's like. I fucking I don't know. I do you ever have a dream? You have a dream you couldn't and you had 4K, 2K, 1080p.
Well, how did we get here?
Because
We just fucking. Actually, no. Do you know what? I always think, right, we're after veering off. The
And we
subject,
never
but
are, yeah,
When,
it's all
when you
related.
trace our steps back,
Mhm.
there's fucking stepping stones. to
yeah,
get
it's not
there.
like just all of them sudden I'm like, what soup is your favorite soup? Do not
I
chicken
do
and
like
veggie.
vegetable soup.
I do as well. Why are you a bit of a Cully Scully?
Cauliflower and broccoli soup.
Maybe
is
we should
pretty
be sponsored
fucking
by Cully Scully, Scully Cully, and
Scully.
Scully, and
Cully and Scully.
and we'll call each other Scully and Cully, Scully Cully. Anyway, I guess
That's
that's.
a good potential brand
I
deal
think so, man. I think we'd fucking rock it.
Soup. On a retro gaming podcast.
It tastes just like Gran. Oh, fucking. Well, I guess I would also like to know what everyone's sequelitis is in terms of what is their fucking, like, if we, I would like to know. I think this would be a good question that we could actually read next week, right? Which is a case of what do you think the worst sequels are? Because there's other games that come to my mind too that I think are fantastic games, but they annoy me. Like Red Dead 2 is like this masterpiece in storytelling, but I also hate traveling across tapping X for 69 hours, like my fucking finger cramping and I'm galloping around the place for ages. And where the first game is like bang, 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 bang.
So much fun.
Yeah, you know, there's stuff like that that's like, oh, you kind of, it's like more immersive, but it's not as fun, you know?
Yeah. So what's our question is, what is the worst sequel?
In
what,
your
what
opinion,
has given you sequelitis?
Yeah, like, you know, it doesn't have to be a bad game. It can be just a disappointing game. Like for other people, you know, it could be your Tears of the Kingdom, it could be your Red Dead 2, it could be a generally shit game. But yeah, I'd like to know what everyone's most disappointing sequels were. I guess that's the easiest way to answer it.
Yeah, and also if you have any insights into the conversation we've had, bear in mind we will do a sequel. So we're gonna do Sequelitis 2, The Revenge of Sequelitis.
Sequelitis 2, The Revenge of
Sequelitis
Sequelitis is perfect.
Sequelitis Strikes Back. Something along
And
those lines.
I don't have my echo here because, oh, by the way, I want to let people know as well, I'm recording this episode for the first time from my apartment, not my normal setup. So if you've noticed any audio changes, that might be why I'm in a bit of more of an echoey place. So I don't have my echo to do like, in a world where the first episode wasn't even that good, now comes another sequel and you must face your destiny for bigger and better this summer. Baloney Man.
Man, you don't need the fucking echo. That was shit hot, man. That sounded fucking deadly.
Rated PG-13.
It's definitely 18 plus. Man.
Yeah, it's like
if you're talking about this podcast.
rated 74s. Trauma necessary. It's like you need to have a long life of wanking and trauma and disappointments in your life to listen to this podcast. That's for sure. I
wonder what do people think, like, Keith? Like, seriously, what?
Can I just read out my intro normally here?
Go on.
Welcome to Preston Bun to continue. My name is Keith, the boy who always thought bigger was better until he found out he had a micro penis. And I'm enjoying my co-host Nisha, who related to the term more expansive, more badass, and more brutality, only related to his masturbatory habits. I think it's fucking genius.
I have never heard that word before, masturbatory.
I mean, I think it's a word. I might have made it up, but I hope it is.
I thought it was a real word. I just never heard it before.
Dude, also, like, I don't know, I was laughing so much when I wrote this. You can't beat a dead horse. But you see the pure abuse that is laid into the lifeless body of some of these franchises. It's so fucking flowery, man. Oh, it's so dark. I love it.
I just wonder what the people think.
Clearly we know what they think.
They love it, man.
They've been here for... This is episode 27.
Is it episode 27?
27, dude.
Fucking
Almost
hell.
getting...
What are we gonna do for episode 100?
Does anyone know? We don't even know what we're doing for episode 9. fucking running
good
before
point.
we can even crawl, man. We have episode 8. I better say it now. Unless he cancels or is not available, we do have another guest. First time. We're double guest billing with double guesting, double fisting, double guesting. This person, I think, has a lot of nostalgia, growing up stories. Has lived a colourful gaming life.
Cool, right?
And I'm very excited. So I think next week is going to be quite a nostalgic themed episode. Mm-hmm. They are a content creator, a very, very good Twitch streamer. And their username, if you want to go follow them and check them out before they pop on, is Barbosa Online on Twitch. And yeah, I think we're gonna have a lot of good stories. I hear these stories all the time when I'm watching his stream. He's got some belters. So we're gonna get really into the sleepover territory. We're gonna get into school territory. We're gonna get into playing the games and hiding them, playing them during the night. Lots of different things coming on. So Alex, Mr. Barbosa Online, will be joining us next week, I hope. Well, I mean, we texted him a while back. You never know. If not, we'll pull something else out of our ass and we'll have him on the week after or something,
Yeah, whenever Alex is welcome, whenever he wants to come on, he has an open...
he has a what, Nisha?
Invitation. An open invitation.
He has a what?
Invitation, Keith.
Okay, perfect.
But come here, can you do me a favour, right? We're finishing up now, right? Follow social medias. Will you do it? Will you do an outro in the voice of the movie thing you did there? But you don't need the echo, man. It works without the echo.
Okay, so what do you want? Give me a theme for the outro.
Right, I'm gonna try one and see how shit it is.
Yeah, go for it. By the way, can we also say, for transparency reasons, we're trying this week to lower down some of our hours in editing. So you're probably going to get like a lot of, which could actually add to the charm of the episodes. You might get.
I actually will be so curious, genuinely curious to know what do people think of the flow of this episode.
Yeah, well, so basically, like, Nisha spends about like fucking 10 hours fucking editing out all the ums and the ahs and everything else, and we're saying, Jesus, maybe we could get through some more content in that time. Do you know what I mean? We'll see what people think of it. I'm always curious to know. But anyway, you give me your best movie guy.
Right, what's the movie? Right, go on, hit me with a console or a movie, and I'll turn it into a movie. Hit me with a video game.
What I want you to do is I want you to recap this episode in the movie voice. That's the best way. Just talk about what we talked about.
Okay. I'm actually gonna try it. Right, I'm terrible at being put in the spot for doing it.
Just go. Don't think about it. Just fucking go.
This episode of Press Any Button to Continue, Keith opened with the deepest, darkest, dirtiest, stanky ass intro we have ever opened with. Even the word "open" will drive this man.
Oh my God, my legs are spread.
We talked sequels, season 1, season 2, video game 1, video game 2.
What is video game 2?
Keep going.
Did you enjoy Sonic 2 over Sonic 1? Let us know next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Rated PG-13s of 74 is coming this summer.
quite happy with that actually.
That was pretty
I think
good,
that
man.
sounded pretty.
You see, this is what improv is all about, man. You just got to keep pushing yourself, right? So it doesn't matter
Right.
how terrible it starts off. You just keep going until something makes you laugh.
Yeah. I
Have
like
you not
it. I
heard
like
how
it.
much shit that comes out of my mouth till I just find it's like 90% shit and there's like a little fucking kernel of gold in there somewhere?
Oh, man, I like it. I like your shit.
Oh, maybe.
I dig your shit.
I dig your shit down on the ground, down when Marlene comes back down to the farm, and I'm gonna tell Marlene, you dig up that shit, Marlene. I'm fucking hungry, Marlene. Where's that fucking shit dig up in the gold mine, Marlene?
Right, will you do a this summer, or actually, you know what, do a preview of our next episode.
Oh,
There you
fuck,
go.
okay.
That's your outro. Your outro is to do a preview of an episode that we haven't even recorded yet.
Okay.
And goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Wait. Okay. This summer, we have a new guest coming to a screen near you or an auditorium. Some say he's the master of ships as he scrubs the decks and pulls the poo out of his little rectal cavity. This man is a sailor like no other. Talk to Barbosa online. You've never seen anything like this before. Telling tales of yonder. Coming to an auditorium and your eardrums are about to explode because it is mega awesome. This summer, Barbosa Online will guest on the two Irish lads. Press any button to continue. Coming bi-weekly to an ear near you on Spotify and other playlists. Bye.
Toodles.